Why isn't Russia, with all its oil, gas, and a landmass big enough to house an army of bears, one of the richest nations on Earth? It's a tale of how to shoot yourself in the foot repeatedly while sitting on a gold mine. Buckle up, because Russia's road to wealth has more potholes than Siberia's backroads. A paradox of plenty Russia, with vast resources such as oil, gas, minerals, and fertile farmland, should, in theory, be one of the wealthiest countries in the world. It also boasts a large labor force and a significant global presence, contributing to its strategic importance on the global stage. However, despite these advantages, Russia has historically struggled with underdevelopment and economic stagnation. This article will explore the historical and socio-economic reasons behind Russia's persistent economic challenges. Early Russia and the institution of serfdom, 1547 to 1800. The economic trajectory of Russia took shape as it expanded its territories in Eastern Europe. Initially unified under the Mongols, Russia eventually gained independence in 1547 under the leadership of Moscow. The sheer size of the newly unified state posed significant challenges, especially in labor retention. To prevent peasants from escaping to different parts of the country, the Russian elites implemented serfdom, binding peasants to the land and turning them into serfs for life. Serfdom was effectively a system of slavery that left peasants without personal freedom. Serfs could not own the fruits of their labor. Instead, their work primarily benefited their lords. This system hindered motivation and innovation, as serfs had no incentive to increase productivity. Unlike in Western Europe, where abolishing serfdom led to a rise in agricultural efficiency and economic growth, Russia remained trapped in a cycle of stagnation, limiting its development. The commune system, a barrier to agricultural advancement. Even outside the bounds of serfdom, Russia's communal farming structure posed significant economic obstacles. Communes were lands managed collectively by villages, where plots were assigned to households based on family size. Land redistribution occurred frequently, which meant farmers had little reason to invest time and effort into improving their plots. Any developments or enhancements could be taken away during the next redistribution cycle. This discouraged investment in long-term agricultural advancements, unlike Western European farmers who developed and applied better techniques that improved productivity and enabled them to profit. The lack of personal ownership and the constant reshuffling of resources kept agricultural innovation at bay, slowing economic development. Geographical challenges. Limited trade opportunities, 1800 to 1861. Russia's massive geography presented unique challenges that restricted trade and industrial growth. Most countries at the time began their economic development by engaging in trade with wealthier nations. However, Russia's vast landscape, with its frozen rivers and disconnected waterways, severely limited trade opportunities. The major rivers only reached the Arctic Ocean, or isolated bodies like the Caspian Sea, which did not connect to global trade networks. The lack of warm water ports meant that much of Russia's trading potential was restricted to seasonal windows. Land-based transport was energy-intensive and costly, making Russian goods more expensive and less competitive on the global market. Consequently, industrial growth lagged behind that of Western Europe, which had access to efficient trade routes and markets. Failed reforms and the emancipation of serfs, 1861 to 1891. In an attempt to modernize, Russia embarked on a significant reform in 1861, when Tsar Alexander I emancipated the serfs. The idea was to turn millions of serfs into independent farmers who could contribute to economic development. However, the implementation of this reform was flawed. The land allocated to former serfs was often inadequate to support their families, and they were burdened with mortgages they had to repay. These former serfs had limited opportunities to prosper, as much of their earnings went towards these payments. Additionally, they were restricted from selling their land, which prevented them from relocating to cities where they could find better-paying jobs. The reform did not include the millions of farmers living in communes, so it failed to stimulate the overall economy. Monopolies and lack of competition. 1891 to 1913. As Russia attempted to industrialize, government-funded projects were initiated, and monopolies were established in various sectors. The government granted exclusive rights to businesses to operate in specific regions or industries, effectively stifling competition. This policy, designed to maintain the support of the Russian elites, limited the incentive for innovation and productivity. With monopolies protected by the state and high tariffs on foreign goods, local industries faced no competition, leading to stagnation. Entrepreneurs who sought to start new businesses had to navigate an arduous process of seeking approval from the government, which discouraged innovation. This system of protectionism and favoritism hampered the industrial progress needed to transform Russia's economy. The Soviet era. Command economy and initial growth, 1917 to 1945. Following the 1917 revolution, the Soviet Union adopted a command economy where the government controlled all production and distribution. Initially, this system appeared effective in jump-starting industrial growth. Centralized planning eliminated monopolies and aligned resources for rapid development. However, this came at a significant cost. The rigid, top-down management system led to inefficiencies, corruption, and poor decision-making. Factories met quotas at the expense of quality, and the lack of competition meant there was little incentive to innovate. The focus on heavy industries and the military further diverted resources from consumer goods, leaving the population with few economic benefits despite industrial gains. The economic toll of World War II further strained the system, even though it left Russia with the perception of a global superpower. Cold War years, corruption and stagnation, 1945 to 1985. The post-war era saw the Soviet Union emerging as a formidable global power, but its economy began to stall. While the command economy worked during wartime, it struggled during peacetime due to corruption and inefficiencies. Attempts to introduce a merit-based system were blocked by entrenched bureaucrats who feared losing their power. This lack of reform led to continued stagnation, and by the 1970s, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics relied heavily on importing high-tech products it could not produce. Despite scientific achievements, these advances failed to translate into consumer products or economic gains. The Union of Soviet Socialist Republics' rigid five-year plans, driven by outdated practices, stifled young, innovative minds who might have steered the economy toward modernization. This period was marked by a slowing economy, limited innovation, and a reliance on oil and gas exports to prop up state revenues. The transition to capitalism, rise of the oligarchs, 1991 to 1999. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 marked a turning point as Russia transitioned from a command economy to capitalism. However, instead of developing a competitive market, the economy fell into the hands of a few powerful oligarchs. Shares of state-owned businesses were distributed among employees, but financial hardship led many workers to sell their stakes cheaply to opportunistic businessmen. This led to the rapid concentration of wealth and control in the hands of a small elite group. The oligarchs secured political power by aligning themselves with the government, creating an economy marked by monopolistic practices. The system mirrored the old imperial structure, where a select few controlled vast portions of the economy, stifling competition and preventing new industries from emerging. This lack of economic diversification set the stage for an economy reliant on a few core industries, primarily oil and gas. Modern Russia, industrial feudalism, and stagnation, 2000 present. Under President Vladimir Putin, Russia's economic model evolved into what many economists describe as industrial feudalism. The oligarchs maintained significant power over various sectors of the economy, ensuring that innovation and competition were limited. New businesses, when successful, were often co-opted by the state and handed over to these elites to prevent power shifts. This system deterred both domestic and foreign investment. With limited competition from within and little external trade due to geopolitical isolation, Russian industries lagged behind in technological advancements. The government's tendency to seize assets discouraged foreign companies from establishing a foothold, leading to an economy cut off from global competition. Additionally, as machinery aged and factories needed updates, Russia's reliance on outdated technology became increasingly problematic. Limited innovation and a lack of incentives to modernize meant that industries gradually became obsolete. The heavy reliance on oil and gas exports left the economy vulnerable to price fluctuations and geopolitical sanctions, especially following conflicts like the 2022 invasion of Ukraine. That's all for today's video. If you found this deep dive into Russia's untapped potential eye-opening, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button for more intriguing stories that make history. See you in the next one. Stay curious.